Hi guys, I'm going to share a quick testimony in case you also find yourself needing this sort of insight or encouragement to the things that God calls you to do, and it's very new and there's really no comparison to contrast what you're navigating through. It's very new. There's really not even any experiences you can go navigate to. And if you also are like me, where you try to go look at other people, you kind of see little bits of the same calling, but it's not exactly the same. So you're kind of maybe feeling like, okay, Lord, I'm obeying you and what you called me to do, but I'm not necessarily sure what I'm doing. Here I am. That's me. And if you can relate, I have a word of encouragement for you. Praise God. So I always take anything to the Lord for prayer and confirmation. But this comes from John 21 verses 1 through 14, because this morning the Lord had me in that before he led me into Ezra, and I did post the word that he gave me following these two books in the Bible. But he was showing me something that I needed to see. And this in John 21 is when the disciples, I think that was the third time they had come in contact with Jesus since his resurrection, which is a huge deal on top of that. But he also came to them at like a really good timing, because they were fishing and they had been doing it for overnight, so they didn't catch anything. And Jesus came to them and told them to cast their nets on the right side of the boat, and they ended up having an abundance of like fish. And John was like, oh, that's the Lord. And Peter was like, that's the Lord. And he jumped out the boat and swam to him at the shore. And then when all the disciples finally got there, because they weren't that far away, Jesus had breakfast for them ready. And he said, get the fish that you got and let's eat. And he already had everything set up, the fire, the it's like, it's nothing like coming to a meal freshly prepared for you, and then you get to make like the last bits of it. There was already bread. Like, it was just beautiful. So nonetheless, I'll get into my little testimony. So yesterday, the Lord told me, and it was around 11, almost midnight, to get on live for TikTok. And I thought that was pretty like random. And also I was like, I'm not getting on live. It was like 11, maybe it's the fact that I'm a little bit older. It's late for me. I'm ready to go to bed, Lord. What do you need me to do? Is this even you? That's where I was kind of going with my mentality. I'm like, I don't know if I hear from you. And I heard him say, you hear from me. So I was like, all right. But why get on live? Like, is there somebody that you want me to like pray for or give a word to? Or is it time for that? I'm not understanding where you would get the glory from me getting on live right now so abruptly, because I'm like, I already did these steps to produce a ministry that was guided by you. So what else is there? What else is there to do besides post the words and insights that you share for me to do so? And so it was a little back and forth. I'm not gonna lie. I know a lot of times there's this glorification and like immediate obedience, but let's just be honest, sometimes, especially when it's not logically making sense, we do go back and forth with the Lord. And I did. This is me. And I'm telling you this, last night I did that, and I was like, nah, I already got my hair in the pineapple. It was just about bonnet time. I had got my children to sleep. I don't really see the point in going live on TikTok, especially when it's close to that hour of like, like you wouldn't go to a corner store at like 11 at night, in this day and age. So I kind of feel like spiritually it's like the same as like, getting on late on the internet to like, I don't know, especially if it wasn't, I don't really have like this lesson plan or whatever. And so anyways, I eventually caved in and I did what the Lord asked me. I prayed a little bit before I got on live, and I got on TikTok live. And so here I am, world. I was on live and I was sitting there, and I ended up in some algorithm in the wrong side of where I'm at. And so it was definitely, it was just that. And so nonetheless, I didn't understand. There wasn't anybody for me to pray for. I just was sitting there. I was taking notes because I am studying to show myself approved. So because I'm not tech savvy yet, remember where it's better. So because I'm not tech savvy yet, I was like, well, let me just figure out how to remove stickers and how to do about me's and how to figure all these things out. And then later I did sit on my phone and like research and write out stuff, and was praying about how he wants me to like list things or the topics or what this would look like when I go live. So it was still productive nonetheless. But I just felt he wanted me to stay on there for about an hour, and I did so. And then afterwards, I was released to go to bed, and I just was very confused and was still battling. Like, was that even you, Lord? Because like I know you said it was you, but like, what was the point? I guess that's how I think. Like, I know when he tells me to do stuff, there's usually a purpose behind it. So I guess I wasn't seeing that purpose. So thus inserts today's Bible study with the Lord, where he was kind of showing me the same thing, is that he called me into this ministry. So it's something that I know I'm supposed to be doing. And I was doing it. Sorry, I had a call coming in. So yeah, I was spending time with him in the word, and I started to understand exactly what he was showing me. And last night he did give me a brief word that kind of like, I ended up obeying after that. I was like, all right, I'm tripping. And the word was, and I'll just read it really quick. He said, "You know me well enough, child. Do not fear. For such as this I have called you. You will be a small stream for those I lead." And so I know my lane. I know to stay in it. I'm actually really excited to be with whatever he wants me anyway. So, I'm not really trying to do all of this for influence or even survival means. It's just more of like, how can I help encourage your children into the position of a power and authority that you have given them? Because, I can relate to going through hard seasons of warfare or lack or Job seasons, and you're just trying to like also maintain that hope and understanding and insight and relationship and all that jazz, right? So I was really excited to be on live, although it was like just literally me looking at myself, and I was like, I obey God, here I am, world. That's kind of where I was feeling, and I was super excited. And so this morning he was showing me that when he called me to be a fisher of men, just like in the same scriptural, and I did air quotes because it's not necessarily the same in that way, but just what he was showing me in John is that the disciples were still doing what he called them to do. They were still doing what they always naturally are giving weight to doing, which is to be a fisher of all men. They were actually fishermen, but that imagery comes from the fact that they already have all those gifts and skills and understandings, insights, ability to have endurance and stamina to fish out on the boat late at night, overnight, sometimes 3-4 days, week-long trips. Like, they have all those things built inside of them to do ministry work. They were just ready for that encounter, that revelation of that bright and morning star, right? Our King Jesus, to meet them at the shore, right? That shoreline where the sun is at is a horizon, a new dawn. They were just waiting on that before they can go forth with their abundance to go into the world and make disciples of Jesus Christ. And so in the same way, he was showing me that with me and what that looks like. And so when he called me to do that, he was showing me that there is a warfare side to it. So I did see a lot of how the enemy attacks God's children, especially when it's late in the night hours. So I do pray that the people who are already on platforms just have a really good support system with intercession and prayer, where they're meeting with somebody weekly, definitely weekly. It can't even be like, weekly, to pray and get deliverance from things, because I was seeing how the enemy rises up against his children and kind of causes them to stumble in ways they may not even know, because it's something that's just the tactic of the enemy. So there was that. But then on the opposite side, it was just encouraging, because Jesus is the one to provide the abundance. He's the one that leads people to the still waters, right? Psalms 23. So when you're called and ordained for the Lord, he knows that he spent so much time, just like the fishermen, right? They already had those skills in them. They already had the giftings, the endurance, the understanding, the way to make sure their boat was equipped to be able to hold that abundance. They were just waiting for that next step, that encounter with Jesus, before they were released into all of the nations. Because shortly after that, yes, and then they had Pentecost. And so there's also some number symbolisms that the Lord gave me. I'm sorry about that. That he, all in all, the Lord was showing me that he tested me. He was testing my discernment, because that was something that I was going back and forth with. Like, is this you or is this me trying to be relevant? Like, why would I get on live with no plan and or agenda. And so he was testing my obedience. And this is also too, when you find yourself having certain giftings, the Lord will give you tests just to test your obedience. It may not even yield any outcome. Like, I didn't have any game plan. There wasn't really any prophetic prayer, insight word given. It was just more of like, he's still training me while I'm also positioning myself, just like the disciples were positioned on that boat, looking for that harvest. And Jesus came, but he wouldn't have given them that abundance had they not been doing the tasks that they were given to do. And so it's encouraging because, one, it shows you that Jesus is going to be the one that takes you to the next level. It won't necessarily be by you and you alone, by what you feel you have or to bring. It's just simply you're doing things just because that's just who you are. It's just, it naturally comes out, right? It just naturally is what it is. And God's going to take it to the next level, especially if you have been called for many things. And it looks different because in my life, within my own testimony, it looks different in every season of how he used me in different ways to cultivate that space, until now he's showing me there will be a new horizon. There will be that shift after encounter with me. And this is something he wants all his children to know. After encounter with him, you are about to shift. There will be a graduation. There will be the next phase, the next step, the next deliverance, the next impartation of giftings. There will be the next call into ministry. There will be the next call into new jobs, new family, marriages, whatever it is. God is going to come encounter his people. And so I encourage you to read John 21, because in that same way you will see that Jesus is for us and he provides all the resources. We don't have to do beyond, obviously, faith without works is dead, right? But it's not just based on our works. And that's what I was encouraged about. And I realized when he was testing my obedience that I passed. And I realized too that it's humbling, because it also helped me to pay attention to my own heart postures in what he's going to do in my life, because I definitely don't want to put myself in the place that feels like I have to somehow steal followers from other people that he's called, but to recognize that I'm in my own lane, just like all the disciples were collectively in one accord fishing, right? But each disciple did work together in their own ways, but they were in different areas and stuff. And so it's also to recognize in that humility that however the Lord's cultivated you will be within the place that you naturally will fit. So glory be to God. I hope that encourages you.